In the quiet depths of space where stars glimmered like distant diamonds, humanity watched and waited. For hundreds of years, humans had spread beyond their small blue planet, settling on distant worlds. They had built great ships, cities on foreign planets, and a network that stretched across many star systems. Humans were no longer just people from Earth. They were a power that few in the galaxy could ignore. But peace was a fragile thing. The galaxy was full of many different alien species. Some were friendly, some were curious, and some were dangerous. Long ago, many of these species formed an alliance to keep peace among themselves. Earth was part of this alliance too. For decades, it worked well. But now, cracks were starting to show. Unseen and silent, small attacks began on human colonies. Outposts far from Earth were hit by strange weapons that left no signs of who attacked. Ships disappeared without a trace. People whispered about a hidden enemy, a group of aliens who wanted to weaken humanity before making a larger move. On Earth, the leaders of humanity grew serious. They met in the highest halls of power, their faces hard with worry. The message was clear. If this continues, we must respond, not just with force, but with a message that can be heard across the stars. In a deep underground bunker, far beneath the city lights, a team of scientists and engineers worked day and night. They crafted a message, not just words, but a warning that would shake the galaxy. The message was simple, direct, and terrifying. One more strike, and we wipe you from history. This message was sent out in every language the galaxy spoke, encoded in signals that reached every star system. It traveled fast, faster than any ship. It was a silent scream of warning that humanity was ready to fight back, and they would not be erased. Far from Earth, in the cold blackness of space, alien leaders gathered. They stared at the message, disbelief and fear growing in their eyes. Some thought humanity was bluffing, just a threat to scare their enemies. Others knew better. They remembered the stories of humans surviving impossible odds, of rising from near destruction to become one of the strongest forces in the galaxy. Among these aliens was a commander named Varric. He led one of the largest fleets in the coalition against humanity. Varric was old and wise, but even he felt a chill reading the final words of humanity's warning. "They do not threaten lightly," Varric said to his officers. "We have underestimated them before. This time, we must be careful." Back on Earth, the people listened to the broadcasts of the message. Some were proud, others afraid. The world remembered the wars and hardships of their ancestors. Humanity had fought to survive for thousands of years, against nature, disease, and even themselves. Now in the vast galaxy, that fight had reached a new level. In a quiet room far from the noisy cities, a young woman named Mira watched the stars. She was an officer in the Human Defense Force, trained to protect humanity's colonies. Mira had seen the attacks firsthand. She had lost friends and comrades. The warning message was not just words to her, and it was a promise. She clenched her fists. "We will not be pushed aside. Not now. Not ever." Mira's ship was ready. Her crew was waiting. Somewhere out there, the enemy was hiding, but humanity's eyes were sharp. They would find them. The galaxy was holding its breath. No one knew what would come next. Would the silent warning be enough? Or would the next strike be the one that started a war that no one could stop? For now, all that could be heard was the steady hum of human ships moving through space, the quiet power of a species ready to defend its place among the stars. Humanity had sent their final message. The galaxy had been warned. The stars were silent witnesses to the slow, steady rise of humanity's power. But beneath that silence, something stirred in the dark corners of the galaxy, something old and hidden. In a small, shadowed room aboard a sleek alien ship, an officer named Terran studied a holographic map of the stars. Terran belonged to the Vaxorians, a species known for their sharp minds and skilled spies. They were part of the alien coalition that had begun striking at human colonies. But Terran was different. He was curious and cautious, always looking deeper than others. He traced his fingers over the map, stopping on a cluster of human settlements, recently attacked. Who is behind these strikes? He whispered to himself. The coalition leaders had given no clear answer. Some said it was the Draxians, a warrior race eager to test humanity. Others blamed the stealthy Myric, experts in hidden warfare. But Terran had a feeling the truth was more complicated. Back on Earth, Mira sat in the command center, her eyes locked on the latest reports from the front lines. The attacks were growing, stronger and more frequent. She had seen the destruction, a small colony lost, a freighter blown apart in deep space. Yet, each time, humanity responded faster and stronger. The coalition wanted to test humanity, to see if they would back down. But Mira knew the truth. Humanity did not fear war. They thrived in it. Meanwhile, Terran's ship followed a trail, a pattern in the strikes that others missed. He found clues hidden in the attacks, the way weapons were used, the timing, the choice of targets. Slowly, he pieced together a truth that shocked him. The strikes were not random. They were carefully planned by a secret faction within the coalition itself, an old group called the Varn, who had once fought against humanity centuries ago. The Varn believed humans were a threat to the balance of power and wanted to weaken them before they grew too strong. Terran looked at the hologram again. The Varn want to erase humanity before it's too late, he said quietly. But the Varn did not count on one thing: humanity's past. Long ago, Earth had been a planet torn by war and disaster. Humans had faced near extinction several times. They survived plagues, famines, and invasions from other species. Each time they learned, adapted, and grew stronger. The Varn thought that history would repeat itself, that humanity could be destroyed like before. But they did not realize that humanity's scars had made them unbreakable. Mira was part of this new generation of humans, born after the Great Wars. She had grown up hearing stories of resilience and courage. Her parents had fought in battles she could only imagine. And now she was a leader, ready to protect her people with everything she had. In a secret meeting on Earth, the Human Council discussed Terran's findings. An intercepted message from him reached their commanders, revealing the Varn's plan. "This changes everything," said General Cade, the head of the Defense Forces. "We cannot fight the entire coalition. But if the Varn are behind this, we know where to strike." Mira nodded. "Then we find them first. We show them that humanity does not forget. And we make sure their message is clear. One more strike, and we wipe you from history." Back in space, Terran made a risky choice. He sent a secret message to Mira, offering to help her find the Varn. He knew this could be seen as betrayal, but he believed in a future where humans and aliens could survive together. As Mira received the message, she felt a spark of hope. Maybe the galaxy was not lost to war. Maybe, with courage and trust, humanity could change the course of history. The stars waited, silent and watching. The stars stretched endlessly, shining cold and bright against the vast darkness. For humanity, this endless space was no longer just a place to explore. It had become a battlefield. On Earth, the news of the secret faction behind the attacks, the Varn, had shaken the highest councils. They were no ordinary enemies. The Varn were known for their ruthless tactics and ancient hatred toward humans. The coalition had not wanted to admit their involvement, but now the truth was clear. Humanity could no longer wait or watch. It was time to prepare for the worst. In a massive underground facility, hidden deep beneath Earth's surface, a team of scientists, engineers, and military leaders gathered. This was the heart of the defense, the last stand protocol. It was a plan born from centuries of conflict, designed to protect humanity from total destruction. General Cade stood at the center of the room. His face was stern but calm. Around him were glowing holograms of star systems, ships, and weapons. He spoke with steady authority. "The Varn want to destroy us. They believe we are weak. They are wrong. The last stand protocol is our final defense and our final warning." He activated a large display. It showed a network of powerful satellites and space stations. These were the guardians of humanity, ready to strike back with overwhelming force if attacked. But this network is more than defense, Cade continued. It holds a secret weapon, one that can erase enemy fleets not only from space, but from recorded history. If the Varn or anyone else dares to strike again, we will send a message they can never forget. Mira listened carefully. She had trained for this moment her whole life. She knew the Last Stand protocol was a heavy responsibility, a promise that humanity would fight to the last breath. Outside the facility, the world was tense. Citizens across the colonies watched the news. Some were afraid, some hopeful, but all understood one thing. The war was coming. In the depths of space, Mira's ship raced toward the coordinates where the Varn were believed to be hiding. Her crew was ready for battle, but they also carried a hope, the hope that this war could end soon. Terran's message had been a turning point. The alliance between him and Mira was fragile but real. Together, they planned to strike at the heart of the Varn's power. As the ship moved through the dark, Mira thought about humanity's history. The wars, the struggles, the moments when defeat seemed certain, but humans found strength inside. "We are the survivors," she whispered to herself, "and we will not be forgotten." Suddenly, the ship's sensors picked up an incoming fleet. The Varn had sent scouts to find them. The space around the ship grew alive with flashes of light, lasers, shields, and engines roaring. Mira gave orders. "Prepare for combat. Stay sharp. We fight not just for ourselves, but for every world that calls humanity home." The battle was fierce. Ships danced in deadly patterns, exchanging fire across the void. Mira's crew worked together with skill and courage. Despite the enemy's strength, humanity's ships held their ground. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the Last Stand protocol was ready to launch. Satellites blinked alive, weapons charging, waiting for the signal. In the command center, General Cade watched the battle unfold on the large screen. "If this is the last fight, let it be a warning to all who threaten us," he said. Suddenly, the Varn fleet began to retreat, but it was a trick. A larger force emerged from behind, a hidden reserve, ready to strike humanity's colonies directly. The stakes had risen. Mira knew the war was far from over, but humanity was ready. With a steady voice, she gave the order. "Activate the Last Stand protocol." The secret weapon powered up, a beam of light and energy that could erase matter and memory alike. It was not a weapon of destruction alone. It was a weapon of history, rewriting the galaxy's records to remove enemies completely. The beam struck the Varn reserve fleet, and slowly the ships vanished. Not a trace remained. No wreckage, no records, no memory in the minds of those who survived. The galaxy felt the shock. The message was clear. Back on the bridge of her ship, Mira looked out into the stars. She knew the battle was not finished, but humanity had spoken. Their final message was sent, and it was a promise that no one could ignore. The war had entered a new phase, and humanity was ready for whatever came next. The stars shimmered like cold fire across the black sky as two great forces moved toward each other. After weeks of tension and skirmishes, the full-scale war had begun. The Varn were no longer hiding in the shadows. Their fleet, made of dark, sharp ships, now moved openly through human space. They believed their numbers were enough to break human defense. They were wrong. On the edge of Sector 9, where 3 human colonies were located, the largest space battle in human history was about to begin. Hundreds of human warships stood in formation, ready to defend their people. Behind them were transport ships carrying civilians fleeing the war zone. Mira stood on the bridge of her ship, HSS Valor, calm and focused. She wore a black and silver uniform, marked with the symbol of Earth's Defense Force. Her eyes watched the tactical map in front of her. Red lights showed the Varn fleet approaching fast. "Enemy ships will reach us in 8 minutes," said her second-in-command, Lieutenant Rami. "They outnumber us 2 to 1. Mira didn't blink. Then, We'll just have to fight smarter." Across human channels, her voice echoed, "This is Commander Mira of the Valor. Hold your lines. Protect the civilians. Let the Varn learn what it means to fight humanity face to face." The human fleet began to move. Dozens of fighter ships flew forward like birds of prey. Larger battleships opened their weapon bays. A web of defense satellites activated, creating a wide shield over the colonies behind them. And then the Varn came. Their ships screamed through space, shooting beams of dark plasma. Their weapons were strong, burning through asteroid fields and smashing into outer shields. But the humans held firm. Fighter pilots like Jace and Lena darted between enemy ships, hitting weak spots and distracting the larger cruisers. Their movements were quick, trained, and precise. Years of preparation now showed their worth. Mira watched as the battle unfolded. Her ship shook as it took hits, but her voice stayed steady. "Fire main cannon," she ordered. "Target their flagship." A bright beam of light exploded from the Valor's front, slamming into a massive Varn ship. The enemy vessel cracked in half, breaking apart slowly as fire spread inside. Cheers broke out across the human fleet. But victory was not yet in reach. From deep space, another wave of Varn ships entered the fight. They brought something new, massive carriers that launched waves of automated drones. These machines had no fear, no emotion, only a single goal: destroy. One drone dove straight toward a human hospital ship. "Shield the HSS Mercy," Mira shouted. Two defense cruisers moved fast, placing themselves between the drone swarm and the helpless ship. They took heavy damage but saved the thousands on board. The fight was fierce, but it reminded everyone why they were there: to protect life, not just to win a war. As the battle stretched into hours, it became clear this was no normal war. This was a test of willpower, of strategy, and of survival. Earth General Cade watched the live feed from orbit. He stood tall in the command center, eyes sharp as steel. "They're pushing us to the limit," said his advisor. Cade nodded. "Then it's time to show them what our limits really are." He activated the second phase of the Last Stand protocol. Across the battlefield, hidden stations powered up. These were not weapons of destruction, but of disruption. They sent out frequency pulses that confused the Varn drones, making them attack their own ships. In minutes, chaos spread across the enemy fleet. Mira saw the opening and gave the order. "Full charge, move forward, take the fight to them." The human fleet advanced. Their movements were bold but careful. They did not throw away lives. They fought with precision, unity, and heart. Slowly, the Varn were pushed back, their numbers shrinking. Then, something unexpected happened. From the far side of the battlefield, a signal came through. It was Terran, the Vaxorian who had helped expose the Varn. "We have taken control of one of their command stations," he said. "They are losing control from within. Now is your chance." Mira didn't hesitate. "Send a strike team. We're ending this." A small, elite unit boarded a captured Varn ship. Inside, they found the command chamber, dark, cold, and silent. But at its center sat the Varn warlord. He did not speak. He simply looked at the humans and smiled. A smile full of hate and pride. But this time, humanity was not afraid. One of the soldiers placed a device on the ship's main system, a beacon that would let the Last Stand protocol lock on. Mira gave the final signal. Above, a silent burst of light blinked from the satellites. A moment later, the warlord's ship vanished. Not just destroyed, but removed from records, removed from time. It was as if he had never existed. The rest of the Varn fleet paused. Confusion spread. Then fear. Across the battlefield, one by one, they began to retreat. Back on Earth, Cade let out a breath. We held the line. Mira stood on her bridge, bruised but proud. The cost had been high, but the message was clear: humanity does not break. The galaxy was quiet again. The stars seemed to shine brighter, but the peace was fragile. Humanity had won the great battle against the Varn, but the cost was heavy. Ships were lost, brave pilots had fallen, and many colonies were damaged or destroyed. Back on Earth, Mira stood in a hall filled with faces tired from war but full of hope. The human council gathered to discuss the future. The battle had shown that humanity was strong, but it had also opened old wounds. General Cade spoke clearly to the room. "We have sent a final message to the galaxy. One more strike against us and we will wipe you from history. But now we must think beyond war. We must build a future." Mira listened carefully. She knew he was right. The victory was not just about fighting. It was about protecting what humanity had built: peace, freedom, and life itself. But not everyone agreed. Some leaders in the council believed the Varn threat was not over. They wanted stronger weapons, tighter control, and a larger military presence in space. They feared that the silence was only a pause before the next attack. Others wanted to reach out to the aliens who had not joined the Varn. They believed in diplomacy, in building alliances, and in learning from their enemies. Mira stood with this group. "War may have made us strong," she said, "but peace will make us unbreakable." The council debated long into the night. Outside, the people of Earth and the colonies watched and waited, hoping for answers. Meanwhile, in the quiet corners of space, the Varn survivors planned their next moves. Their hatred had not died, but the fear of being erased from history had made them cautious. In secret, they sought new allies, dangerous and powerful species who had stayed out of the war so far. They hoped to build a new coalition to challenge humanity. But time was against them. On Earth, scientists worked to repair damaged colonies and build new defenses. Engineers created better ships, faster and smarter than before. And diplomats reached out across the stars, sending messages of peace and friendship. Mira traveled between worlds, meeting leaders and citizens. She told stories of courage and hope. She reminded everyone that humanity's strength was not just in weapons, but in heart. Yet, there was still fear. Some colonies did not trust the alien neighbors. They wanted to prepare for another war, just in case. One evening, as Mira returned to her ship, she received a message from Turan, the Vaxorian who had helped expose the Varn. He wrote of growing tensions in the coalition and warned of a hidden threat, one that could destroy all hope. For peace, Mira knew her fight was far from over. The final message had been sent, but the story of humanity was still being written. She looked out at the stars, feeling the weight of her responsibility. "We will protect what we have won," she said softly. "No matter the cost." The galaxy was watching. The next chapter was waiting. The galaxy was quiet, but the silence felt like the calm before a storm. After the Great Battle and the Last Stand Protocol's power, humanity had won a fragile peace. But Mira knew this peace was only the beginning of something much bigger. She stood on the observation deck of the HSS Valor, looking out at the stars. Her mind raced with memories of the war, the sacrifices, the victories, the losses. The faces of her fallen comrades flashed before her eyes, reminding her why the fight had mattered. Suddenly, the ship's communication panel beeped. It was a message from Taran, the Vaxorian ally. "We have news," his voice said urgently. "The Varn's new allies are gathering in the Outer Rim. They plan a strike that could destroy everything." Mira's heart tightened. The war was not over. She gathered her team. "Prepare the fleet. We must stop this before it begins." The human ships moved swiftly through space, racing to the Outer Rim where the new threat waited. Along the way, Mira thought about what had brought them here: fear, hate, hope, and the will to survive. When they arrived, the scene was worse than they expected. A vast enemy force, larger and more dangerous than the last, gathered near a small but vital colony. The Varn and their allies had built a base of operations, preparing to launch a devastating attack. Mira knew this battle would decide the fate of the galaxy. The fight began with a thunder of engines and weapons fire. Ships clashed in the dark, lighting up the stars with explosions. This time, the enemy was stronger and smarter, using new technology and tactics. But humanity was ready. Mira led her fleet with courage and skill. Every decision was critical. Every move mattered. As the battle raged, Mira received an unexpected transmission. It was a call for peace from one of the enemy leaders. "I see now," the voice said, "that humanity fights not just with weapons, but with heart. We cannot win this war by destruction alone. Let us talk." Mira paused, surprised but hopeful. She agreed to meet. In a neutral space station, representatives from both sides gathered. The talks were tense and difficult, full of mistrust and anger. But slowly, understanding grew. They spoke of the future, a future where different species could live and grow without war. A future where strength was measured not by power but by unity. Mira felt a new hope rise within her. The war had shown humanity's strength, but the peace could show their greatness. Back on Earth, the people celebrated not just victory but a chance to rebuild and dream again. Mira looked at the stars one last time before leaving the observation deck. "We sent a final message to the galaxy," she said quietly, "and now it's time to build a new story." The stars blinked back, silent but full of promise.